Well, the Supercar Finals are closing right on in, and there are some drivers who are locked in for their fight over the 3 rounds and 7 races that will complete the rest of the championship season. But I want to have a look at who's locked and who's not locked and who could find a lock at Bathurst in a couple of weeks' time. Let's take a look at the graphic of who's locked in for how they sit coming into the great race. We've got a lock in the top left corner, so they are definitely going nowhere. Broc Feeney, Matt Payne, Will Brown, they are all in from Queensland Raceway. Broc's the Sprint Cup winner. Matt and Will both with enough points that they were safe before the bend. And then what unfolded at the bend has allowed us to lock in a few more players. So 6 are in of the 10. Cam Waters is in, the runner-up from the bend. Chaz Mostert's in despite a tough run on Sunday. And of course the bend winner, Brodie Koestecki, the reigning Bathurst 1000 champ, has locked his way in. So there's 6 in. There's 4 spots on the line. And I wanted to step through who else there could be. I reckon Anton De Pasquale is looking the goods. So you can see there he's 191 above the top 10 cut-off line. But the thing that sticks out to me, boys, he's had 9 top 10s from his last 9 races, including 2 podiums. That team's getting their stuff together at the right end of the year. Yeah,
they are. And I think, you know, based on the trajectory, and without knowing all the calculations off the top of your head, because anything can happen, but a top 10 at Bathurst should see these guys straight through. Their performance has definitely been increasing. I think there's a bit of chat about, you know, the fact that Jeremy Moore's now back at GM, having left
influence.
Yep. And the timing around him kind of departing his gardening leave and the timing of Team 18 going better, potentially lining up, but obviously it takes a lot more than just set up sheets and bits and pieces. So, yeah, I think that team will need to improve and keep improving because they are going to be the factory GM team.
The one little thing that I have as a little bit of an asterisk next to their name, and they can prove us wrong here, their record at Bathurst is ordinary in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. I mean, they ran themselves out of fuel there a couple of years. They've definitely beefed up their brain power going to Bathurst. I think Anton's in. I think he makes it in, being that far in front of the cut-off line. The next guy I'm also putting in, we've talked about Ryan Wood. He's 8th at the moment. He's 157 clear of the cut-off. He's had a couple of podiums this year. He's fast. His error rate's a little bit high. Now's not the time to keep that rate going. No,
but, you know, he's got speed on his side noons and, you know, that's what we're all chasing fundamentally is speed. So, you know, he has a comfortable margin to the sort of cut line, if you want to call it that. But, you know, a clean weekend for that combination definitely puts him in a strong position to progress through to the finals.
And there's a very interesting thing here that hasn't been picked up on by some people. We talk about the 300 points to win race, and that's very much still the case. 276 for second, but once you go from third down, the numbers are different this year from the previous years of the weighting of the points. So you could be a driver that ended up finishing in the race at Bathurst last year and getting a certain number of points, and you get about 6 or 7 or 8 points less this year. You might miss a final spot that you otherwise would have got under the old point system. So that's something to not be caught out by when you're looking up the points and following who's in for Bathurst. 9th at the moment coming in is Thomas Randle. The numbers have been going against him in the last part of the season, but he's 99 points clear of the cut-off. He's got a good co-driver there. I've never heard of that fella before, but he seems to go all right. 3 top 10s from his last 5 races. At 99 points above the cut-off, he's probably in the zone of, well, he's going to need to have a bad day, and Kai Allen, for example, is going to have a good day to jump him.
Yeah, and, you know, I guess that's probably going to be one of our focuses in the lead-up to the weekend is, you know, making sure that we have everything in place that we can be hopefully comfortably in that top 10, you know, have a good fast car underneath us that's predictable, easy to drive across the day. But I know that's certainly a focus of Thomas and the teams is to, first of all, make the finals. And I think the improvement over the last couple of rounds in terms of some consistent top 10 results puts us in a position where we can go to the mountain being confident that if we execute the cars underneath us, then we're more than capable of finishing in a position that allows Thomas to progress into the finals.
So let's have a look at who runs in 10th at the moment. And Kai Allen's been the surprise packet. He's come storming through in the last couple of rounds. He's been on the podium. He's had 4 podiums, which if you'd said at the start of the year that Kai Allen was having 4 podiums, we would have said, wow, that's probably above where we'd expect him to be. He's right on the fringe here in 10th. He could very well sneak 2 Grove cars into the finals, which at the start of the year, if you said Kai was going to be in the top 10 on points in his rookie season as a main gamer, you would have said, wow, that's a big result. He's a big chance for this.
He is, and he's done really well, like you say, to get on the podium. Well, not just once as a fluke. He's been on the podium there now, and he looks right at home, running competitively. They probably fell victim of the 4-stop strategy a little at the bend, so that then comes back onto the team because you can't afford to have that strategy go wrong at Bathurst and potentially miss out on the finals. And something that's important, just thinking about what we've been chatting with these 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, a lot of them have got teammates that are already locked in.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in a position where Matt Payne can't win the race, but he's got track at Bathurst. He's got track position over Kai Allen. Do you switch that around? Does the team say, hey...
If they're nose to tail?
If Matt Payne's running 5th, Kai Allen's running 6th or 7th and it doesn't look like Matt can win, you can't afford Kai Allen to double stack in pit lane or something and lose all that track position and then finish 11th in the points and not get into the finals. So I think there'll be a few other spreadsheets floating around with the engineers at Bathurst that might have these points on them, because if it's not your day to win the Bathurst 1000, you've got to make sure that you can get your second teammate into the finals, because that becomes a more important play than finishing 5th at Bathurst.
It's a great point, that one we haven't really explored too much. So Tickford have got 1 in, 1 out. Red Bull have 2 in. Walkinshaw's have 1 in and 1 out on the cusp. Groves are the same. So there could be some added storylines in how this all plays out. And if teams don't know this coming in, they really need to get onto it in the next couple of weeks, because, look, let's face it, if Kai Allen is in the 10 and does make it through, do we think he can genuinely win the championship? Probably not. But could he finish 4th or 5th in the championship instead of being consigned to 11th at best? It's well worth it. And you don't know what these guys have got in their bonuses too for their contracts and where they're going to finish. There might be some more money on the line here.
But the other thing to also consider in all that is, those 6 cars that are locked in already to the finals is, what priority do they put it on in terms of going for the Ryco Enduro Cup that gives them the 25 bonus points?
Which you've got to be top point scorer across the 2 races.
Yes. So you've got to weigh that up as well in team land potentially too. So, but Jack's point is good. You've got You've got Tickford, Walkinshaws, and Groves that all have cars locked in. One of their cars locked in, and then their team cars are on the bubble, if you like.
There's some pocket pool to be played here, to use the old term. André Heimgartner, let's take a look at the Kiwi for Brad Jones Racing. He's on the outside, not by much. He's 11th. He's 18 points away from the cut line, but a horrible bend where they finished last after some contact early on. He hasn't finished on the podium this year. He's had 1 top 10 from his last 7 races. He's only ever made the shootout at Bathurst once, and that was last year. If he's a shot to get in, he's got to qualify in the shootout, which has not been something that over the years he's done. I'd be more worried for him at the moment than I am for Nick Percat or Cameron Hill.
Well, yeah, for me, probably where Andre now sits after the bend is a little bit more indicative of their championship position. Prior to the bend, he was inside the top 10.
We would be saying he was probably safe if he finishes 10th at the bend.
Yeah, so anyway, Brad Jones Racing knows how to deliver fast, consistent cars at the Bathurst 1000. Granted, they might have not done that for the last few years.
In Gen 3, they haven't.
So, the pressure is on that combination to have a fast car underneath them. But the ones, to me, based on form, are the MSR cars, and potentially them squabbling amongst each other to get in.
And there's an interesting complete scenario where you've got one team with 2 cars trying to get in here, so they're going to try to leapfrog each other all day. How do they manage that? How do they play that? They've got 2 drivers who look like they're not going to be there next year, so that's a whole other element to that scenario. Nick Percat at the moment sits 12th in the points. A great run at the bend has brought him right towards the cut line. He's 37 off here. He's not far away. Highly experienced co-driver in Tim Slade. How they play this is going to be interesting, but I mean, he had a rough day at Bathurst last year, whereas his teammate Cam Hill actually ended up in the top 10. So if we look at Cam Hill, who is just behind 13th, he's only 51 off the cut line as well, with Cameron McLeod co-driving. So there's all sorts of possibilities on how this might play out, and that is kind of a shame in the way that this will play out, because we're going to be talking all about the driver, the team, the car that wins the great race, the Repco Bathurst 1000. All of these elements of who's booked their ticket to the 10 will kind of not get much of a run, and that's why I really think we need to determine the 10 before we go to Bathurst, because no one's going to get the attention. It'll be an afterthought on the lead up to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch it all unfold, because there's going to be more than just the one battle for the race, isn't there? There's going to be a battle for the Ryco Endurance Cup. There's also going to be a battle for getting a spot in the finals.
There's a lot of battles.
There is, but I think momentum's a big thing, and I think Cam Hill and André Heimgartner probably lost some momentum from earlier in the year, and like Nick Percat off his strong result at the Bend and knowing they've got confidence in their co-drivers, I think that's going to play an important part for Nick's quest here. And I guess there's also not a lot of pressure. Currently they're not in, so it's kind of like, well, what have we got to lose here? If it's a strategy call, roll the dice. Equally, if they've got a good car, they'll be confident of actually going for an outright result at Bathurst.
But how about if they're running nose to tail and pit priority becomes a big important matter? That's going to be a whole pile of fun when you've got two cars trying to get in.
That'll be spicy, there's no doubt.
We love a bit of spice. We're all good with it. There's plenty to discuss on the workbench. On our next show, I've got another topic about how I think we need to change the testing rules in supercars, but that's for the next episode. That is the workbench here on the Undercut.